Hi guys, it's Tina Hurley with Less Leg More Heart, and we're at the Amputee Coalition Conference in Atlanta, Georgia, and we're walking around pulling people to have amazing experience so we can pick their brains and bring information to you to have a better quality of life. So there was this guy sitting around that happens to have the same shoes. I said, we must talk. Turns out we're Facebook friends, and he's
obviously very close Facebook friends because she recognized me right away.
Right away. And so this is Alex, and I want him to tell you where he comes from and what he does and why we're here talking.
Yeah, here at the conference from Portland, Oregon. I'm the vice president of Evergreen Prosthetics and Orthotics. I've been with the company over 10 years. 11 years ago in June, I had a tree come down and get my legs and lost my right one below the knee like Tina. Then I have an AFO, ankle foot orthosis on the left side for drop foot. And yeah, here connecting with people, it's been awesome so far, and it's just getting started, so yeah.
All right, so the thing I really wanted to talk about is, it's heartbreaking. I get so many people that we advocate for, more than 350 at this point, and so many people just want help generally navigating prosthetics because they go into a clinic either for the first time and they have no idea what to ask, what to do, or they're going into clinics and they have residual limbs that are bruised, battered, banged up, they're uncomfortable, they can't walk or live their quality of life, and they're made to feel, quite honestly, like the problem, like it's them that's the problem.
Yeah.
And they're just given systems, they're not told about trial periods, they're not told about their options. They really are passive and being sort of steamrolled through the process. And the more that they learn to have a voice and to understand the standards of care, the more they truly can enhance their quality of life. And it's a big deficit because you don't know until you know, right? And it's like, I've been an amputee 8 years and I'm still finding stuff out that I'm like, I can't believe it's been so long since I knew.
Yeah.
So we're trying to just raise that awareness. You guys really run kind of a holistic, in a sense, practice, in the stuff I've been looking at, you don't really have biases on what people get. And so I wanted you to speak to a little bit about the important things people should know when they're at prosthetists and the kinds of things that you guys do that you really think are top-notch kind of care standards.
Yeah. The first thing I kind of look at personally is a personal bond, personality with a practitioner. I think that's a big one. I do a lot of interviews with residents at schools, and I always recognize the people that I feel comfortable being in a 10 by 10 exam room, my leg off, maybe me in pain, maybe me emotional, that individual is going to be confident, it's like borderline cocky, where they're going to look at me and, oh geez, I don't know what to do. That's not what you want. Speaking to the devices themselves, working with a company that works with all manufacturers, not just one, not just five, anyone you want. If we're working with a 6-year-old kid and they see something on Facebook or their parents do and we don't have it yet, we have a whole department that will run out, research it, have a salesperson vet it, and we go out and get it for you. That's a big one. On top of that, Tina and I were talking about in-house fabrication, where if I have an interview in New York tomorrow and my socket cracks today, and it's my dream job, Evergreen can turn around in the leg in about 3 or 4 hours. Some cases even less than that, depending on which location, but we can do it same day if need be. Other companies out there, they use more of a central fab model, which is very smart financially, but it doesn't serve the patient to their benefit. They're gonna take your device, ship it off, and work on it remotely. And then obviously if it comes back to you and doesn't fit,
it's going again.
It's going again. So
you're in a washing machine.
So then I'm gonna go to that dream interview in a wheelchair, which was that do for your confidence and self-esteem and
absolutely
all of that.
Just to break down really quickly too, to go more of a granular level about some of the comments that you mentioned. The first was like the affect and the demeanor. There's two sides of that coin that I've seen. One is people are getting such poor quality care, and that's from an objective standpoint. But it's not malintended. It's either a lack of time, it's corporate management that's dictating some things, or
compassion.
Right, but so that piece of it, when folks are, but they love the person, right? So they've got that good rapport. They feel like they can be vulnerable and raw and in pain with that person, but they're not creating a good product. That is a really hard thing for people that have loyalty to walk away from. And what I try to tell people, and I would be interested in knowing your thoughts, the business of your health is your business. You have to act like it is your business and it's what's putting bread on your table. Their demeanor, their affect, your friendship with them is not the business of your care.
No.
It's the product that they're making, and it's the way that the process is going about the product that they're making. You have to separate the two, the emotions from the business of what's happening. And a lot of people have a hard time with that.
Yep. There's a piece to being an amputee, and with that bond, if you're my practitioner and I'm head over heels for you, right? You're a great person, we connect, you connect with my family. Sometimes it's hard when you're in those parallel bars and they've done everything possible and there's still a pinch, right? And that takes such a, and also it takes an honest person telling another honest person what's wrong and no, you didn't fix the problem. But then also, we want to be out the door. Like, we want to be running, we want to be skydiving, we want to be golfing, right? So sometimes we're like, I can put up with that. You know what I mean? And so I really think the best thing for patients out there is to be brutally honest with these people, because the last thing in the world that they want is you not to tell them something is wrong, and that something wrong turns to something major, potentially a revision.
Yeah,
and
that is so true.
Yeah.
The amount of folks that have been uncomfortable and end up having like poor devices or systems that end up having like migration of their tissue or invaginated scar tissue or wounds that progress, it's a serious issue. So that suffering in silence, while you might think you're appeasing the party, right, it ends up possibly being a really big issue. Yeah. And then the other side of that coin is that they aren't creating an environment where you're able to ask questions or get items that you need. And so when you guys are working with a patient, how do you go about, like I have so many people that have they've never been educated by their team about supply management. They've never been educated about their team about, even when you talked about what manufacturers are out there. They don't know that Oser and Glauer and like all these companies or things. Yeah. How do your patients get care? How are you guys educating them to make their informed choices from, like, what's your process of onboarding, I guess?
I think the biggest thing is the practitioners really dive into what Tina wants to do and who she is, that she has a son, right? That she likes yoga or whatever you might like.
I do like yoga.
Well, there you go. So, they dive into that. Then, again, with us working with all the manufacturers, they're gonna come up potentially with a list and even show you. We own another company. It's a vendor management company, and in layman's terms, it's Amazon for prosthetics and orthotics. Cool. So you type in an L code, every foot with that L code pops up and shows you. It'll show activity level, K levels, it'll show weight restrictions, all of that kind of thing. Nice. Where it's just let's try something new. And so I think realistically is getting to know the person. I think that leads to the device and what they're gonna want, what they need.
More collaborative care and less sort of oppressive care, and we see a lot of it.
Less demanding, and can we also call these manufacturers that feet and knees aren't cheap, which we all know that. Can we call them and say, hey, Tina really wants to try this foot, can we demo it for a week?
But it takes you more time, and it delays your delivery date possibly, so you might lose more money. That's the problem on the back end, right?
Correct, but it's also taking care of Tina, and I want to take care of her the rest of the life.
And that's the way business should be done, and we're not seeing it. We're not seeing it nearly enough.
No, and I think,
Yeah, that's a big problem, because what I've noticed is that individuals will go in, and probably less than 2% of the 350 people that we have served have been offered trial periods or even know that that exists. Yeah. And what they're literally getting the leg, they're not allowed to leave the clinic, and I know there's liability to that, and I'm not judging that, but they're walking on a foot that they've never tried anything else with, and all of a sudden they're asked if that feels good, and they're going to a final within a couple of hours. And then they have problems, and now they're told they can't get another leg for 6 months. These are real things that are existing, and all of it can be mitigated, I think, by making sure that they're collaborating with their team and that they're asking these kinds of questions. I think the best way, dumbing it all down, do you feel seen and do you feel heard? Like, genuinely seen, heard, and educated by the person that's in front of you. Because if you're leaving and you don't know so much more than when you first got to that appointment, there's a problem. Because even 8 years later, I'm learning new stuff. So there's no way you can go in there and not learn more.
No, and it's, the hardest part for amputees is the unknown, right? And, I help run a peer support program, and after doing it for 10 years, I still get questions that I've never been asked before, right? And I could figure out the answers. It's just what's important to you versus what's important to Matt or Jennifer or myself. It's all different, and you don't know until until that date's done.
And technology is ever evolving. So even if you know all the things,
Yep.
in another 6 months when a bunch of new products push, things are gonna change.
Yep.
I wanted to talk a little bit about sort of the monopolization, if I could use that kind of a word with a connotation, of certain manufacturers. A lot of amputees and common folk, they don't know that prosthetics is a huge industry. And that's okay, a lot of good industries. But the problem is that folks don't understand the political landscape that they're in when they become a patient. They're in an acute rehab, and all of a sudden a prosthetist comes to visit them. And that's because there's a political tie sometimes with the prosthetist clinic and the hospital clinic, and that's not always a bad thing. But folks don't know that they have options.
Correct.
Then they go to that place, and that place may be owned by OSER, or it might be owned by whatever company.
Yeah.
Again, not a big problem. The person just needs to be aware that more likely the things that are going to be funneled toward them are politically biased products.
Yeah.
When you talked about using this vendor
Management system.
thank you.
VMS.
A lot of words. EMS. I love that.
VMS.
Okay, because EMS is emergency. And
Yeah,
I don't
no.
want to talk about emergencies.
No.
What made your company decide that it would go that route, and how do you feel that benefits folks from the other model? Just want to talk about it so people are aware that they need to know if the clinics are owned by places, and they need to know that there's different manufacturers that they should test and try.
That's a good question. So we are 100% patient-based, and we always will.
Everyone's going to say that.
I know.
That's the thing.
No, I get that. But you used a great word, and that's options. And we want, our practitioners that we look to hire want to have, to me, they're some of the greatest people I've ever met, and they think outside the box. Having more options, tools in your toolbox to think outside the box and work with, right? I always kind of, we might look alike, right? But your socket's never gonna fit me. Mine will never fit you. I kind of call us fingerprints, right? Where we might all look alike, but we're completely different.
People wouldn't know that, the everyday person. They wouldn't realize that you can't just pop on someone else's leg, but there's so much that goes into
the height, the width, the weight. I mean, there's tons of it. So I guess giving people options in anything. If there's one restaurant in town, right? You're gonna go there on date night, even if the service sucks, the food is horrible, there's hair in your food, whatever, you're still gonna end up going there on special occasions. Best thing that can happen is there's a second restaurant that opens up to give you options. And usually what that does, that makes that first restaurant step it up.
It increases it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do a little bit of a show and tell. This is just my temp socket.
Yep.
And this is for the point of simply education.
The Phil foot?
It is.
I have that, yeah.
It's like he didn't even need to, you like smelled it and you're like, you knew the parts.
There it is, there it is.
Yeah, I like All Pro and I need to try more out. But so let's just walk through common below the knee problems, basic level. So you've got your socket, you've got your alignment, and then you've got your technology for your foot. And there's thousands, I think, at this point of lower end technologies.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like lots and lots.
Yes.
And then this is all fabricated by the person.
This is all custom, yes.
Yep, this is all custom. So for the average person that has no clue, can you just briefly touch on the way that for below the knee, people can attach to their leg, the system, and then alignment, top two things or so that like might be a problem with alignment, and then feet, like just a couple problem spots.
Well, I'm not clinical, but I'm going from a
you got
patient.
It. You are
patient,
an expert.
Right? Yes. All right. So the biggest thing with anything custom, you have to try it out. These test sockets, check sockets are super important. Even though I'm a bigger guy, my distal end is very bony because it was trauma, and so. Like, are you a pin system? No.
I'm a sealant.
You're suction.
So I have a suction, but I don't have a sleeve. I have an inner seal. It's a new try that I'm doing.
And this is an upper sleeve, right?
So this gill little piece is doing what this outer sleeve does essentially.
Yeah. Yep. So, and because I'm really bony, those really don't hold on very well. It's just a weird shape, right? So I can't do pin, I can't do that. So I just do suspension. I've had vacuum on before. You really got to watch for skin breakdown. Anything starts hurting, turns into a callus, could turn into a blister.
Don't push through it. It's not like a grit through it deal. You don't get an award for doing it.
No. And as far as alignment goes, you're going to want to try and walk as naturally as possible. I always notice that, who thrives in prosthetics? Kids. You get a 6-year-old bilateral, they're running down the hallway
so
before
strong and
I
rugged.
could even walk with a walker,
Yep.
right? And so I almost, when I say, it's really trite, but take baby steps, but figure out a way to walk as naturally as possible.
That brings new life to
because
that saying.
baby steps,
Yeah.
right? And so the more you're gonna walk naturally, your alignment's gonna show on how your practitioner's gonna wanna
Right.
push it, tighten it, change it.
Yeah, that's a
all
good
that.
point.
Then the feet, really, there's so many options out there. I mean, I have a hydraulic foot here. This is a great foot, I have it. I golf in it a lot. There's just, it depends on what you want to do with it.
It's like ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many flavors, and you don't know what your taste buds are gonna love. You just gotta try stuff out in different seasons of life, right?
I tell people, just put feet right in your mouth, right? No, so it's, no, there's so many different options. And even with women wearing high heels and whatnot,
Right.
anyone wearing high heels,
Yeah.
you know, there's ways to do that. Cowboy boots.
There are
all of
so
that.
many solutions on the market.
Yeah.
And there's so many problem solvers like the O&P clinics
Mm-hmm.
that with those two things combined, you should be able to do the things you want to do. And so if you're not able to, you don't feel like you're being seen and heard, you know, you should consider the kind of care team that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying something to me, you know, before we're closing about the specialty sort of concierge service in essence that you sort of offer with the on-call. Can
Mm-hmm.
you share with them what you guys do?
Yeah, and so we have a 24/7 on-call service in the majority of our clinics. Some rural, we can't, but we'll still pick up. A lot of that is for hospital calls where someone needs a back brace, someone needs a cervical collar.
Sure.
But realistically, if there's an issue over a weekend, potentially you crack your socket and you and the kiddos are leaving for Hawaii on Monday, I would definitely reach out and
Yeah.
see if we can get there and fix it.
There are urgent needs, and I think that the one piece that you touched about was the fabrication. You know, if places don't have in-house fabrication and technicians that can get things quick and turned around, then they're not going to be able to solve your problems in a speedy way. And sometimes, especially in the beginning as a new amputee, it's okay for a 2-week turnaround time
Right.
because you're just learning, you're finishing up your PT, your volume is figuring itself out.
Yeah.
But when you're a more mature amputee and you're getting back to life and you have your family and you're in that job and you're
Yeah.
doing those things,
Yeah.
you do have something that might be needed later that day or the
Absolutely.
next day. And so
Yeah.
making sure that you at least have conversations about where things are being fabricated and how turnaround times work is really important. I just commend you guys for the kind of work that you're doing. I wish that it was more common, and unfortunately, as an 8-year user and
Yeah.
someone that's advocated for people around the country, it's really alarming how
Yeah.
poor some of these
To be
circumstances are.
transparent, it's extremely expensive. If you ask any financial advisor, they would say, go to the central fab model because they can run out, get a warehouse that's 10 cents a square foot, get 10,000 square feet, versus in our medical clinics, we're paying $30, $40, $50 a square foot.
Right.
So it costs money, but it's the right thing to do, and I don't want to change it for patient care. And also to collaborate with a certified tech in back with a certified practitioner it's just, the outcomes are night and day compared to calling someone 10 states away saying, hey, work on this device. You've never met Alex or Tina, but figure it out. So
Well, if you're in the Portland area, you guys know who to go to.
North Carolina, Tennessee,
Oh
Texas.
yeah, so all over
Colorado,
basically.
yes, Idaho. and
Evergreen
growing.
O&P, doing it right, setting
Yeah.
the standard. Thank you so much for your time,
you're welcome.
Alex.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that we're friends, and
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for you sharing your knowledge.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, guys.
And great shoes.
Yeah, great shoes. Oh, I put the one without the shoe up.
Right.